Good evening, everyone. My name is Chris Bloom.
And my name is Gabrielle Sprauve.
And we would like to thank you for supporting the Traverse City Dance Project by watching tonight's performance of the No Distance Dance Festival. We would also like to let you know that 10% of the proceeds from tonight's performance will go to Campaign Zero and the George Floyd Memorial Fund.
We are not only part of this movement, but we are this movement. There was a time in our past where we would not have been able to be together legally, and there's a time in our future where we will have to have a conversation with our children, and we will have to be afraid for their lives, and it can't be like that anymore. Things have to change. It's time to take action, and we appreciate your support in this film. We appreciate your support with the Traverse City Dance Project, and we would greatly appreciate action. Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us for the second No Distance Festival. My name is Brent Whitney, and I am the executive and co-artistic director of the Traverse City Dance Project. If you can, please consider a donation via our PayPal link. The proceeds directly benefit the artists you see tonight, as well as fund our next production of the No Distance Festival. Tonight, we're also donating 10% of all proceeds towards the George Floyd Memorial Fund and Campaign Zero. Thank you so much for watching. Enjoy the show.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Lott. I am the Artistic Director of the Traverse City Dance Project. And along with Heinel Pivnik, I am curating the Traverse City Dance Project's No Distance Festival.
My name is Heinel Pivnik, and I am the Music Director of the Traverse City Dance Project, and I am based out of New York City.
Hello, my name is Gabrielle Sprauve. I'm from Savannah, Georgia, and I'm a dancer with Ballet Hispanico.
Hi, my name is Chris Bloom. I'm originally from Virginia, and I'm also a dancer with Ballet Hispanico, and I'm luckily engaged to this lady.
Hi, my name is Rafiq Bhatia. I'm a composer, performer, sound designer, and excited to be a part of this project.
The thing that a camera offers that is not offered in like in a proscenium setting is intimacy. Mm-hmm. The camera, like if you film it with this intent, you can bring the viewer right up to the action, you know, like directly this close. Mm-hmm. And that I think is the huge advantage, that if you're making dance for film, you can't ignore that, because you don't want it to look like proscenium dance. You want it to look like a different media.
Recording of music originated as like a form of documentation, you know, dozens of years ago, but like over the intervening decades has become such a active part of what music can be, you know? And in that situation, like somebody was looking at that and said, okay, well, we can't be there in person with the performer. It's never going to be the same, but what can we do with this that we can't do with, you know, the proscenium, basically? And like that intimacy thing, like really zeroes in on something that's a huge animating principle of my work, you know, and certainly of that track, that the Single Petal of a Rose, the closeness to the piano is like, as I was telling you guys in the last call we had, mm-hmm. even if you had been in the room and been right next to the piano, you couldn't hear the notes the way that you can hear them on the recording, because Chris was playing so quietly that all you could hear were the mechanics of the piano, and the notes were like the faintest whisper, you know? And
which is awesome, that intimacy is only possible through the documentation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, and it's just so cool to hear you guys saying that, like, that has been part of the exploration, because that very much is a part of the music that you guys were working with. You know?
Yeah, definitely.
I've made several dance films previous to this, but they were made in concert with a filmmaker who was present for the filming and who had a vision for the filming. I never had to come up with a vision for the shots before.
And thinking of angles and slow motion and all these things that we don't think about, or we see it on, if we see a dance film, we see how it's done, but we really didn't know what it takes, you know, behind the scenes, like behind the camera. It's kind of cool. I found it kind of cool to actually being able to see myself do this movement, not from just a proscenium setting, which is our usual way of performing and how we see ourselves, and being able to see ourselves doing this movement in a different way through a different creative eye, I think was actually more helpful. And I didn't get so stuck in, you know, being that picky dancer who doesn't like seeing themselves on film. I got more engulfed in the creative eye and like the creative process and how we can make this look more interesting than it just being us setting the camera down and doing, you know, a 2-3 minute piece, a duet, and then calling it a day.
Working to create what we've been creating for these 2 video projects we've been working on, specifically for Traverse City, also, it's been, you know, any kind of innovation, any growth is going to come out of some type of, you know, gauntlet of trying to figure out a new way of working or figure out difficulties. And one of our main difficulties has not been working in a studio, not having the equipment we need, you know, like a Marley floor and a sprung dance floor and an adequate sound system are basic pieces of equipment that you use for dance and that aren't accessible to us right now. So our rehearsal process has been either on an asphalt parking lot or in a grassy area in the apartment complex in the Georgia sun and humidity, about 80 to 90 degrees depending on the day. And like normally I would wear sunscreen out in the sun, but it makes me too slippery to partner Gabby, so no sunscreen. And like, so understanding how to work and how to figure out exactly how to work without our kind of normal basic equipment has been not only hugely frustrating, but I'm sure growth is going to result from it.
Yes, we're partners in life, we're engaged, but also as dance partners, we don't partner at BH.
We're the same height.
We're the same height. We're not like, we're really not put together as partners. And that's been something new for us. I think we've partnered together professionally maybe like once or twice.
For something that actually we weren't second cast for something where we were first cast and we ended up on stage. Like once
or twice. Yeah. And so that was another realm for us where we were like, well, we got to work on this, because we're used to working with different people. Like we have our main partners in the company that we work with, and we've never worked in such an intimate way professionally together. So for us, that's honestly like, that was also another big challenge, because we had a moment of parts of like being in our process and we're like, why isn't this working? Because we kind of, we came into it at the same, we had a lot of moments. We came into it with the same mindset of like, we love each other, like we're getting married, like, you know, you would think that it would be that movie, like it's just gonna work. It was not working.
No.
we were having some rough moments, but honestly, like even as a couple, like this pandemic, having to work together in that way has also brought a lot of growth as a couple and as dance partners in life and professionally, which at the end of the day, like it really is a good challenge. And for us being in this country, it's also like the limitations that we have for a lot of people in the world, those are not like these are limitations for us. So like it's kind of a humbling moment of, you know, like it's not that you can't do it, it's that it's hard.
Yeah.
And just because it's hard, it doesn't mean that it's not possible. So you need to make it possible. And if you make it possible, then all right, well, you can do it.
there's a big focus in my music on rhythm. I've always understood the process of experiencing music to be one of empathy, and I understand that like our brains imagine the movements that would have had to take place in order to produce the sounds that we hear. And so having the opportunity to kind of like see sounds that I put together and rhythms that I put together come to life in interesting and different ways makes me really excited. Yeah.
I'm originally from Dallas, Texas, which is where I am right now during the quarantine, stayed with my family. I just graduated from the USC Kaufman School of Dance in Los Angeles just a few weeks ago with a BFA in dance and also a focus on performance and choreography.
In thinking about dance, I couldn't help but think about cycles of rhythms. And I'm always curious about, you know, musicians and dancers think about rhythm in slightly different ways, I've understood, you know, and so the counts can be like divorced in certain ways from how a musician might count the music. And so I kind of was inclined off the bat to create something that would have multiple internal pulses inside of it. So like cycles of rhythms that resolve at different points. And it's, you know, so there are like 3s and 6s and 5s and 4s and 7s all inside of this thing, but they are polyrhythmic and the whole thing is simple, but I wanted it to feel like the sounds are always moving and evolving. What Kaylin and I are doing is I sent some music over that's purposefully unfinished, and then she's been writing to that and creating movement that is really amazing, and as I'd hoped, like completely recontextualizes the way that I was thinking about and counting what I wrote in like the best possible way, because it sort of suggests other kinds of sound treatments and things that I will now add based on exactly what she did. That to me is kind of the next best thing besides us being able to like be in the same room working or be able to be meeting regularly to kind of hash this out in person, is like each of us taking the thing and giving it back with another layer of input, you know, and so it's like a more iterative collaboration rather than a sort of like transaction.
We talked a little bit about either like movement and music kind of reaching a certain point, different peaks, playing with explosions, going in different directions. So I just kind of started constructing different phrases based off of that and reorganizing, restructuring, like seeing what felt right on my body, using like video camera to see what it actually looks like, trying to find the balance between like what you feel versus what you see on the camera. That was an interesting play. And then when we started exchanging clips of music in the phrase, I was then able to play more with dynamics, the rhythms. I really enjoyed the spontaneity of the different rhythms, like you said, because a lot of times like I am used to working with like, okay, 8 counts, like here we go, like every single, you know, and a lot of pieces of music. So it was really cool because it was constantly evolving for me.
For me, in terms of having many different vantage points on music and sort of growing up as a kid who was like struggling to figure out what home felt like for me, or like what my identity really was, being the son of immigrants growing up in the South, like not really relating entirely 100% to anything. There was a lot of looking at how other people expressed what felt comfortable and at home to them, and singling out the things that I could relate to in that, and finding a way to get inside of why that might be the case, and then finding a way to like make that a part of who I was sort of actively. So if you want to develop the technique to do something, it has to start with empathy and understanding of like what the thing that you're trying to do actually is and what would serve that thing.